Mr. President of the General Assembly, Mr. Secretary General of the UN, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to commend the organization of this important meeting dedicated to the fight against human trafficking, a crime targeting the most vulnerable persons, especially women and children, and which constitutes a violation of the human dignity, a crime that UNODC considers as the third most lucrative criminal trafficking after the trafficking in arms and drugs. I would also like to express our support to the political declaration of this high-level meeting, which reinvigorates our common will and resolve to put an end to this horrific crime through the implementation of the necessary measures upstream and downstream. We strongly believe that time has come to translate this political will into concrete actions that will strengthen the international cooperation with the aim of preventing this crime, protecting the victims, and ensuring that impunity will no longer prevail. Ladies and gentlemen, let me reiterate Algeria's full commitment and support to the global plan of action to combat trafficking in persons, as this comprehensive and concerted framework remains the cornerstone of our collective efforts against this crime. From our perspective, more efforts are needed to tackle the root causes of this crime as well as the factors aggravating its devastating consequences. Indeed, armed conflicts, political crisis, terrorism, and violent extremism, as well as the increased levels of poverty and the widening development gap within and among countries, are all factors that constitute the underlying causes and the fueling factors which turn vulnerable people into easy prey for transnational organized crime networks. Against the depth and complexity of the root causes of this evil, preventive measures remain, in our opinion, the best remedy, which requires the commitment of all states to redouble their efforts in order to fight poverty, economic inequalities, and underdevelopment while promoting democratic values and the rule of law as part of a holistic approach that addresses both the causes of human trafficking and its consequences. Excellencies, it goes without saying that human trafficking is nowadays a global crisis affecting countries of origin, transit, and destination alike. Algeria has not been spared by this borderless phenomenon, mainly because of the proliferation of conflicts and crises in its neighboring region and in the continent of Africa that is also plagued by terrorism and trafficking in arms and drugs. I would like to highlight in this regard that the Algerian government continues to devote the necessary resources to combat trafficking in persons, in particular through the establishment since 2015 of the National Committee for the Prevention and Fight Against Trafficking in Persons. This committee has greatly contributed to expand the legal framework and improve the operational aspects of our national efforts. In addition, the government is in the process of finalizing the law on the prevention, protection, and prosecution of the crime of trafficking in persons. This law will pull together all the relevant legal provisions provided in the Penal Code and the law on the protection of children, in addition to establishing a specific global framework for victims through the creation of accommodation centers to protect them and preserve their dignity in full compliance with our international obligations, in particular those emanating from the additional protocol to the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime aimed at preventing, suppressing, and punishing trafficking in persons, in particular against women and children. Furthermore, being the government's focal point in the fight against trafficking in persons, the National Committee plays a key role in raising awareness among all national actors about the nature and multiple facets of this crime, with the involvement of the civil society, which remains a key player in this regard. However, in the face of the complex interconnections between the different branches of the transnational organized crime, our separate efforts will have little impact if not combined together. Algeria is therefore convinced that no country can beat alone this scourge, which requires targeted global partnership and international solidarity anchored in the vision of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Algeria, which remains fully committed to the fight against trafficking in persons, calls for the full implementation of United Nations policies and programs against trafficking in persons, including the commitments deriving from the political declaration that we have just adopted. I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.